What's happening, y'all? Welcome inside the Fantasy Stock Exchange. Danny and Bush coming at you with our official 2021 NFL playoff predictions. We're going to go through round by round, say what we think is going to happen. Today is Friday as we're recording this, so the playoffs actually begin tomorrow. We're going to go through the wild card games a bit more in depth because we know that they're actually playing each other. We'll give you some DFS advice throughout the way, talk about the matchups, and we are eventually going to agree on a playoff bracket that is going to be reflective of what FSE thinks is going to happen in the playoffs. Obviously, we're going to get some stuff wrong, but it's just a fun exercise altogether. Danny, how you doing?
Doing well. Yeah, just excited for some playoff football. I mean, obviously, again, I can't experience it firsthand, pain. But you know what? Even though my team's not in it, I can definitely support the remaining 12 teams, or 14, actually. Used to that now. Remaining 14 teams left vying for that Super Bowl title. So ready, getting started, starting tomorrow. We got the wildcard weekend. I'm just hyped.
Yeah, if you guys notice, I have a new addition behind me. There's a number 12 Tom Brady jersey. I had to purchase that. I told you guys earlier in the playoffs, the fantasy playoffs that is, that if someone goes off for your team in the fantasy playoffs and you win the championship, you should buy their jersey and support them. But Alvin Kamara was that guy for me, and I refused to own a New Orleans Saints jersey. So Tom Brady's second highest scoring player on my team. I was going to have to buy a Tom Brady jersey as a Bucs fan anyway. So I bought a Tom Brady jersey, all pewter. Hopefully they're repping that jersey kit against Washington Saturday night. Anyway, let's get into the intro before we get into the first game. Okay, so the first game we have here is the Colts at the Bills. This one's kicking off, I believe, at 1 p.m. on Saturday. This is an interesting game. I've heard a lot of takes about this game. I'm pretty sure the popular notion of how this game is going to go is if the Colts want to win this game, Jonathan Taylor has to go off, right? Like that's the only way they win this game. But my thing with the Bills and why I think the Bills win this game very easily, in my opinion, is that the Bills can score on anyone right now. Their passing offense is absolutely on fire. Stephon Diggs, Josh Allen, Cole Beasley, even Dawson Knox catching touchdowns. Like, I don't see a way that the Colts actually stop their passing offense. And if they get behind, I have zero faith in Phillip Rivers to be able to throw them back into a game.
For sure. Again, the main strength, again, don't get me wrong, the Colts are a good all-around defense, but the main strength of their defense is their run defense. They're a little bit more susceptible in the back end. I mean, Kenny Moore's a solid corner, but really after him, they don't have the secondary to be able to deal with the Bills' weapons. I mean, you got Stephon Diggs, Cole Beasley. We saw Gabe Davis coming on at the end of the season. I mean, I just think that the Bills have way too much firepower on offense. And given the way Josh Allen's playing, I just cannot see him being one and done in the playoffs. So I fully agree. I think the Bills win this one by at least 2 touchdowns, in my opinion.
Yeah, so the spread on this game is 6.5. So they're less than a touchdown favorite. I would take the Bills. I think the minus 6.5 is a good bet to make. I think if they get out to any kind of lead early, this one's going to be a blowout. If it's close throughout, I like the Colts' chances a little bit more in that because I believe they're second in the league in turnover differential, even having a quarterback like Phillip Rivers. So they're good at creating turnovers and not turning over the ball on offense. So I think they could win a close game if comes down to that. But if the Bills get any kind of lead, I honestly expect them to just throttle all the way to the next round.
Yep, I fully agree.
All right, so the next game we have on the slate here, we have the Los Angeles. Actually, quickly, but before we get into that game, who's someone that you like or don't like in DFS purposes? For me, I think I'm going to fade Jonathan Taylor, personally. I think if you're going to play a Saturday slate of DFS or a showdown slate or something like that, it'd be hard to avoid him in a showdown slate with just this game. But if you're playing a full Saturday slate, I think I would rather go with some of the other running backs later in this on Saturday, like maybe Cam Akers or Chris Carson or Ronald Jones or something like that. I just think Jonathan Taylor is going to be really highly owned. Everyone knows that the biggest weakness of the Bills defense is their run defense. But my thing is they know the best strength of the Colts offense is their running back. So I don't think they're going to, I think they're going to make Phillip Rivers beat them. And I don't think Jonathan Taylor just gets out to a huge 2 touchdown, like 200-yard game. Like I don't see any chance that happens. So I'm going to fade Jonathan Taylor if I'm playing showdown DFS, which I'm probably going to.
The fact is, even if he does that, I still think the Bills have a chance at covering, which is crazy to say because I believe from a personnel standpoint, even from a coaching standpoint, Rex a fine head coach. McDermott's at another level. I mean, in my opinion, I picked Tomlin in our predictors before the season started. I think McDermott's the most deserving of the coach of the year this year.
I actually think that's who's going to win it too.
Yeah. And just from a personal standpoint, again, as I mentioned, that Bills offense is just going to be so hard to keep up with, especially do you really trust Phillip Rivers to score 30 points in this game? Because if he wants to win, that's going to have to happen.
I think another DFS pick for this slate is I think you have to eat the chalk. I think Josh Allen's the quarterback of the Saturday.
Yep,
If you're going to play a full Saturday slate, I think you have to eat the chalk. To be honest, I think like you have Goff with a busted hand at 4 o'clock. You have Russell Wilson's been up and down, especially against the Rams. And then I think probably Brady is your next best bet if you go with a quarterback from the Saturday slate. But I think Josh Allen is just a slam dunk for a lot of fantasy points. So I think I would play him if I have a quarterback conundrum on the Saturday slate.
Yep, fully agree. And to sum it up for this matchup, we both have Bills straight up, and we actually both have Bills covering that 6.5-point spread for all you bettors out there.
Yep. All right. To the next game we have here, we have the Los Angeles Rams at the Seattle Seahawks. As I mentioned, Jared Goff is dealing with a hand injury. It's supposedly he's probably going to be like all right for this game. I'd imagine he's going to play in a playoff game. It's too important not to have John Wolford or whatever the hell his name is starting. This is going to be an interesting game. The one from a betting perspective, the over/under is 42, which means Vegas expects this to be a low-scoring game, as I think would most people to expect this to be a low-scoring game. And if this is a low-scoring game, I actually really like the Rams in this game. I think they're plus 3.5. So not only are they is it a close spread, they're actually the underdog in this game, and you get 3.5, which means if they come within 3 points, you obviously would cash out there. The plus 3.5 of the Rams, if I'm betting this game, is exactly the bet I would take. I actually think the Rams money line at plus 150 is also a pretty good bet. I'm going to pick the Rams straight up to win this game.
Dude, I thought we were going to be disagreeing with this one, but I fully agree. I'm picking the Rams here. The way their defense has been playing really all year, Brandon Staley is going to get a head coaching offer. I mean, what he's done with this defense really kind of looked like a leaky unit last year, really refined everything from that standpoint this year. One of the top units. I mean, Aaron Donald dominating on the inside. You got that pass rush really coming alive. And I believe right now they have 3 of the top 20 graded corners, according to PFF. That's just a real nightmare matchup for what the Seahawks offense is going to be able to do. Again, you got DK Metcalf, you got Tyler Lockett, fantastic receivers. If there's one team in the league that actually has a secondary that's going to be able to keep up with them, it's going to be the Rams, as we saw in both matchups this year. So I agree. It's going to be low scoring. It's going to be kind of a slugfest interdivision type game. And we'll see with the status of Goff, because it is concerning if he's not 100% going into this. But regardless, if he plays even 85, 90 type percent, I still think that the Rams have a really good chance of winning this game. So I agree. The main game plan for the Rams, in my opinion, is going to be trying to get Cam Akers going early, really get Seattle on their heels, make that offense really try to put up points fast, because that's when they're prone to mistakes. And if Cam Akers just grinding that game out, really giving them less opportunities to do so, I think, again, the way Russell Wilson's been playing a little inconsistent recently, turning the ball over, the Rams are a team that can absolutely capitalize off that. So I agree. I'm going to go Rams, both money line and against the spread. So 3.5, eat that.
Yeah, I think playoff football, a lot of people just think is this team better than that team? It always comes down to matchups. The reason that certain teams give certain teams problems is because of the matchups. And the Rams against the Seahawks front, which is not the greatest in the world, the Rams secondary, which doesn't let you get beat deep. It's just a secondary that you can't beat deep. You cannot beat the Rams secondary deep. They'll give you the close stuff. Like, look at your receivers. You have Tyler Lockett, who's a great deep threat. You have DK Metcalf, is probably one of the best deep threats in the league. It's hard for the Seahawks to get stuff going on the Rams because they just don't have the type of personnel to match up well against them. And I think that's why I ultimately think the Rams win this game. From a DFS perspective, I really like the Rams receivers in this game, because I think the way they're going to have to move the ball against the Seahawks is a lot of nickel and diming them. So if you're on DraftKings specifically, I think Robert Woods and Cooper Kupp have a good chance to catch like 8, 9, 10 passes. And in a full PPR kind of format, I really like those guys. I would assume everyone's going to fade DK Metcalf because he's going to see a lot of Jalen Ramsey. I don't hate going against the grain and playing DK Metcalf just because he's DK Metcalf and he could go off against anyone. But Jalen Ramsey is a first-team All-Pro corner. The All-Pro list just came out recently today. And I think he deserves to be on first-team All-Pro. So it's a rough matchup for the Seahawks all around.
I want to say I saw it on Twitter, tweeted by PFF or something like that. But I think I saw since week 12, Jalen Ramsey allowed 22 total receiving yards, which is if that's the exact stat that it is, it's insane. I mean, we already know how talented of a player that Jalen Ramsey is, but he has been just suffocating. And the fit
We
that
haven't
he
even
has
mentioned
been,
Aaron Donald yet, who also is no
Aaron
doubt
Donald as
a
well.
unanimous first-team All-Pro selection, and deservedly so. They might have the two best players at their positions on the same defense. Plus, they have a young up-and-coming defensive coordinator calling the shots, and they have a number of role players playing well, like John Johnson and Darius Williams and Troy Hill. A couple guys playing well up front too. Like it's just a great defense all around, well coached, a disciplined team, and the way the Seahawks have been playing, it's undisciplined is the way that they're playing. So I just don't think the Seahawks have a chance in hell in this game, to be honest.
I agree. What's the next matchup on the slate?
Okay, so now we got my team. We got Tampa Bay Buccaneers at the Washington Football Team. This game could go a lot of ways, right? So you see the obvious matchup. The marquee matchup is the Tampa Bay Buccaneers offensive line, which has been outstanding this year, to be honest. They've had a couple bad games against New Orleans, but Tristan Wirfs is an all-pro snub, in my opinion. I think he should have been an all-pro tackle. They have Jack Conklin as the all-pro right tackle. I disagree. I think it should be Tristan Wirfs.
No, Conklin's been awesome, but
he's been awesome. But Tristan Wirfs, as a rookie with no training camp, with no offseason, has come in and absolutely shut down some of the league's best pass rushers and anchored an offensive line that PFF graded as the number 5 offensive line in the NFL right now. And this is why I think the Buccaneers win this game, and I think they win it handedly, to be honest. Because what Washington does, their only card in the hat is their defensive front, right? Their defensive front, anchored by Chase Young, is very, very impressive, right? But you got to think, why is it so impressive, and why do we have the notion that it's so impressive? They have 6 games against the NFC East. They played a very, very easy schedule. They're a great defense. They're probably a top 5-6 defense in the NFL. But let's not pretend that they played some bad teams. And when they played good teams, like the Seahawks and the Steelers, they caught them at their worst possible times as well. So they weren't playing like they didn't get the Seahawks in week 4. They got the Seahawks when they were stumbling. They got the Steelers in week 12 or 13 when they were stumbling. So I don't think the Washington Football Team just really has any chance in hell in this game. I don't think the Buccaneers defense is the unit I thought it was earlier in the season, but it's good enough to stop Alex Smith or Taylor Heineke, whoever ends up playing quarterback in this game. I just don't think they have the offensive firepower to keep up with Tampa Bay's offense. And I know Tampa Bay has played Detroit and Minnesota and Atlanta the past couple of weeks, but sometimes you need a get-right game. You need a get-right stretch to get your offense on track, and that's exactly what they had to close out the season. And I think they're playing with extreme confidence right now. Tom Brady has closed out a season like he's never done in his illustrious career. I think they throw the ball all over the yard on this team.
Yeah, no, I agree. I do have the Bucs winning this now. What did you say the spread was on this game?
+8. +8. Yeah, so I wouldn't be I don't think you buy any points or anything. I think if you're going to take the Bucs, you're expecting them to win by a lot. And I do like the spread in this. I think I would take the Bucs. I don't know if I would bet this game because I do think there's potential that Tampa Bay gets out to a slow start. Maybe it's a closer game than we expect, but I do think they're going to win regardless. So the Bucs money line is currently at -400. I think it's honestly a high interest savings account. I think that's free. I think that's free money. I think they win that game.
Yeah. And then when you're looking at it from the Washington Football Team perspective, don't get me wrong. Their defense, again, you mentioned top 5 or 6 in the league. It's very, very good. And although you said that the Bucs defense hasn't been as impressive as you expected earlier in the season, it is still at minimum a top.
They're about top 10, top 12 in most defensive categories, except for like passing yards and a couple other things like that. So yeah, I think they're a top 12 defense in the league.
So realistically, you got a slight upgrade on defense for Washington while having one of the biggest downgrades in terms of offensive.
Yeah, this is a top, especially the way they've been playing recently. Like, what are the Bills? The only better, the Bills and the Packers, maybe the only 2 better passing offenses over the last month of the season. So, I think this is a top 5 offense against a bottom 5 offense. So, and in today's NFL, when offense means so much, that it's just too hard to overcome that, no matter how good your defense is, to be honest.
The crazy part of this game, this may be the first time that Tom Brady has been the most mobile starting quarterback in a game in a while.
Yeah, that is wild, actually. It is worth noting Tampa Bay will not have Devin White for this game, which is a big deal. They use him as, he's the second leading sacker on their team right now. He has 9 sacks on the season. Crazy. I know, he's been outstanding. I've said a couple times, why don't we just pack 15 pounds on him and make him an edge rusher? But because he can't cover anyone. But either way, I think the Buccaneers, even without Devin White, Kevin Minter's a pretty solid backup. I think they're going to be just fine. On offense, they're probably going to get a lot of J.D. McKissick passes and Logan Thomas catches and stuff like that. I think from a DFS perspective, Logan Thomas is a lock in my lineup on Saturday. I think he is the best play at tight end because I think,
well for me.
Pardon?
McKissick as well for me because
Yeah,
I don't
McKissick.
think
Those two guys are going to be the engine of the Washington offense, I have a feeling, because Antonio Gibson is a little banged up still. He's still dealing with the toe issue. Plus, we know you don't run on the Buccaneers. We know that that's
no.
if we know anything from the last couple of years is that you don't run on the Buccaneers, and they don't use Antonio Gibson as much in the passing game as they probably should. J.D. McKissick has been that guy, so I think he is the guy that I'm going with, and I probably would fade Gibson as well if I'm rolling with any kind of running back in my flex or anything like that. I probably wouldn't go with Gibson. Yeah, so we're kind of both in agreement. What do you think of this the over under in this game? It's at 44.5.
I'm going under. I think it's going to be like 24-14.
Yeah, I'm going under, but only because of the Washington side of things. I think, I guess the implied total for Tampa Bay is like 32 points. Or sorry, not 32 points. What am I talking about? It's like 26 points or something like that is about how much they expect the Buccaneers to do that. I think I would take the over in the implied point total for Tampa Bay, but I don't expect Washington to score more than 14 maybe even like 10 to 14 points is what I expect from them. So I think the over-under is risky from that perspective because, yeah, for an over-under, you need one team to score a lot, but you also need the other team to keep it close to have more of a high-scoring game. So I think we can get off this game. I think it's pretty easy to pick the Buccaneers. I saw NFL.com, their bracket that they did, they actually picked Washington over Tampa Bay. I don't really see how you could talk yourself into that, except the only way that happens, and I'll say this as a Buccaneers fan, there's a couple games.
Young has to ruin the game.
You have to imagine that the Buccaneers just absolutely fall apart. Like they beat themselves, they turn the ball over, they blow some coverages, like stuff that has happened so far this season, but has not happened to a huge degree where they would lose to a way inferior team like this.
Chase Young has to pull a Michael Strahan in order for that to even happen.
Yeah. And Tom Brady needs to pull a Taylor Heineke and play like him. So, this is not a game I expect to be very close.
And again, you mentioned NFL.com picking the football team here. They also had James Robinson as number 3 pick next year. So.
Yeah, no, that's not okay. All right, so this next game that we have here this one's going to be fun. I think the Sunday slate is far better than the Saturday slate, in my opinion, in terms of the games that are played. I think Baltimore at Tennessee is the first game that we have, 1 p.m. I wish this was the night game. I think this should have been the 8 p.m. game on Saturday, and you move the Bucs game to 1 p.m. on Sunday. That's what I would have done if I was the schedule.
This is by far the best game of the weekend for the record, guys.
Oh, I think so too. Yeah.
By far.
Yeah. So the spread in this game, currently Tennessee is an underdog of 3 points. So Baltimore's favored by 3 points. Both teams playing super well right now. Both running games just on fire. The Ravens are running all over everyone. J.K. Dobbins is going to make his claim for a top 15 fantasy pick next year. He's playing outstanding. Lamar Jackson doing work with his legs. Derrick Henry rushed for 2,000 yards this season, and probably like 1,000 of that came in the last 6 games of the season. So, these guys are on fire right now. We've seen this matchup before. We saw it last year where Tennessee just stymied a 14-2 Baltimore Ravens team, and Derrick Henry absolutely took over that game. Do I see that happening again? No, not from the perspective where I think Tennessee is going to just run all over Baltimore, but I actually would pick Tennessee to win this game. I think Baltimore is a little bit afraid of scared of its shadow. Like they can't win playoff games. And I know that's really narrative-y, but again, this is about matchups. And I don't think Tennessee, how is Tennessee most exploited? Like, how do you beat Tennessee? Yeah, you throw on them, right? Yeah, and Baltimore, while they can do it, like I'm not saying Lamar Jackson's a running back and he can't throw, but it's not what they do best, right? They run the ball the best and they play good defense. And while Tennessee is kind of exploitable in all facets of their defense, on the ground, they are better than they are through the air. So I think Tennessee's passing game is going to be able to get some efficiency going. I'd imagine they're going to sell out to stop Derrick Henry because they don't want the same thing to happen this year as it did last year. But I think that presents a lot of opportunity for Ryan Tannehill to get some play action going. A.J. Brown to be an absolute freak of nature that he is. Corey Davis can get more involved than he did last year around Tennessee's run to the AFC Championship. I think Tennessee just matches up better from an offensive perspective. So I'm going to pick Tennessee to win this game.
This is going to be where we first disagree. In the Ravens' 5-game winning streak, that offense has really picked it up from where they were at the beginning of the season. And the biggest part, again, week 11, when Tennessee actually beat them in overtime, the biggest difference between that game versus the Ravens at the end of the season, the offensive line play. The offensive line play in that game against Tennessee was not good, to say the least. By the end of the season, they've been playing like a top 5 unit in the NFL these last 5 weeks. And it's evident given how successful their offense has been. 27 plus points in every one of their last 5 games in their 5-game win streak. I just think the way they're playing, the way Lamar Jackson's really been efficient with the football recently compared to his early season struggles, and of course the emergence of J.K. Dobbins, mix that with what's been a smothering defense when they're able to jump on people early. I think the Ravens are just going to be too much. And again, they're going to have that motivation in their head. They lost to the same Titans team last year in the playoffs. They lost to the same Titans team this year in the regular season. I do think Lamar Jackson and the Ravens do get their revenge and take this one home.
Yeah, that is definitely a real thing in the NFL. It's hard to lose to the same team twice, 3 times in the same stretch with like the same players and all that kind of stuff, because coaches are smart. They know how to pick apart a game film and come up with a better game plan for the next time around. I think this game is a pick 'em, right? Because Baltimore is at home, so they're favored by 3. This is literally, if this was on a neutral site, this would be a straight up pick 'em. And I think it deserves to be. I think this is going to be an excellent game, and I think it probably comes down to the wire. The only thing I would say from a betting perspective real quick is that if you're going to bet on this game, do it live, because Tennessee, if they get out to a lead, are not going to lose this game, in my opinion. If they get out to a lead, they're not losing this game. If Baltimore gets out to the lead, I think Tennessee can throw back into a game better than Baltimore can. So I think betting this game live would be the play if you're going to bet this game.
This is actually so the Titans are actually home in this one. So
if the
Lions,
yeah, the Lions, yeah. You're right. So okay, so then I guess Baltimore, if this is not a pick 'em then, because Baltimore's favored by 3 on the road.
I'll pick the Titans against the spread, but I'll pick Baltimore straight up because I think this is going to come down to a last second field goal type game.
Yeah, it could be. Yeah, this is definitely going to be an interesting game. I think this one does come down to the wire, whether it's like an overtime game or something like that. That'd be really exciting, especially because I expect a kind of a lackluster Saturday slate of games and maybe a couple of blowouts. Hopefully the Sunday slate gets off to a good start.
For sure.
The over under in this game is 54.5. I don't think I would touch it, to be honest. I think that's a pretty good number. I don't think I think there's going to be points in this game, but I could also see there not being that many points in this game. So I don't think I would touch the over under. As far as a DFS perspective, this is a tough one, man. I like Derrick Henry is Derrick Henry. I think you got to play him if you're going to play Sunday DFS. He's just a guy that you need to get into your lineup because he gets way too much work. If they get into the red zone, it's going to Derrick Henry. He's too tough to fade. I think Lamar Jackson is the best DFS player in this game. Yes. Yeah, because the matchup for him on the ground, through the air, it's just great.
I'm saying even on the Sunday slate, I mean, you look at it, are you really going to trust Breeze against the Bears? Are you going to trust any of the Bears quarterbacks? No, you won't. And then you look at the Browns versus Steelers game, maybe Baker, but
Lamar could have like 90% ownership in this game, or not 90%, but I think whatever quarterback is played on the Sunday slate that comes from this game, probably for most people, right? Because it's going to be Tannehill or Lamar.
Agreed. So, I mean, this would be, if I was picking, this would be Corey's picking. We'll show you both going into next round just so you can kind of see our picks going through so we can be fluid with it.
Yeah.
What's the next game on the docket?
Yeah, we have the Chicago Bears versus the New Orleans Saints. And this is a game that is going to be really narrative driven, right? Much like the Baltimore-Tennessee game, this is a team that in New Orleans that has choked the last couple of years. They just flat out choked. They lost to a way inferior Vikings team than them. Last year, they lost 2 years ago in the NFC Championship on the infamous Nickel Roby-Coleman play, and then they lost on the Stephon Diggs Minneapolis Miracle the year before that. So they have had literally. They've had 3 really bad playoff beats. I don't think it happens again. I think they take care of business. I want to say the Chicago Bears are just like this frisky team that could take out a good team like New Orleans, but I mean, whether Michael Thomas plays or not, to be honest, I think I like the Saints in this game. They're just too disciplined. They're too smart of a organization right now that I think they just can't. They can't lose to this Bears team. If they do, that's really, really bad. And Breeze retires, right? Like if he loses this game, he's going to retire. He retires if they win this game or if they win the Super Bowl. I think he already accepted a broadcasting position for CBS or whatever. So. They know this is their final shot. They're going to give it everything they have. Breeze is going to give it everything he has. Alvin Kamara just playing like a man on fire the past couple of weeks, obviously with the 6-touchdown game. I think they're able to stop what the Bears do best, which has been David Montgomery over the past couple of weeks. They're so frugal against the run. I don't anticipate Chicago getting much going on offense. I think this is a game that might not be very close also. New Orleans favored by 10 points. I actually like the Bears against the spread, because 10 points is a lot to give up for a playoff game. Just it's hard to win by that much in the playoffs, whether you're playing an inferior team or not, especially with New Orleans' track record. I would take the Bears against the spread. But as far as who wins this game, I think it's the Saints.
Yeah, no, I agree. And I actually got the Saints against the spread too. It's just crazy to me. In the NFC, you got a 7-9 and an 8-8 team getting in. And then the AFC, you got a 10-6 team missing.
Yeah.
Pretty wild to me. But I think the Saints take care of business. I mean, Mitch Trubisky is just not going to go on the road and win this game, especially against the Saints.
And look at the teams that Mitch Trubisky has beaten the past couple of weeks, right? Like, I mean, you beat what? Like, did the Packers even play Aaron Rodgers last week?
Yeah, they did. But
they did.
Yeah, but they romped them.
Yeah,
like they romped the Bears. So it was.
Oh yeah, for sure. It's just the games that the Bears have done well in were games where David Montgomery just absolutely ran wild against the Texans and against these teams that are bad. 1 and 2 have bad run defenses, and that is not the Saints.
I just wish that the Cardinals were able to sneak in, because if the Cardinals made it, I'd have a better case of them competing.
Yeah, I can see the Cardinals upsetting the Saints. They match up a lot better against them. The Bears, what they do well is not what the Saints are susceptible to. So
agreed. So final matchup, we actually got an intra-divisional matchup between the Steelers and the Browns.
Fade Montgomery, by the way. If you're playing DFS, fade Montgomery. Do not play David Montgomery, in my opinion.
However, do play Allen Robinson, because Marcus Lattimore.
Yeah, I like Allen Robinson as a play. Marshawn Lattimore. He's not that good. Like I don't care what anyone says. Everyone gives him Pro Bowl votes, and everyone thinks he's like the best corner in the league. He sucks, man. Like he plays well against Mike Evans, and that's it. Like that's basically what happens with Marshawn Lattimore. So I don't trust him to rein in Allen Robinson. I think Allen Robinson, from a fantasy perspective, from a DFS perspective, gets a lot of work done in this game.
I almost referred to him as former Gamecock running back Marcus Lattimore.
Yeah, Marcus Lattimore, the guy who blew his knee out, right?
Oh man, he would have been so good. But anyways, let's get into this Steelers Browns matchup.
Yeah, this is a game that's really interesting, right? Because we have implications with Joel Bitonio missing this game, who's probably one of the best guards in the league. We have Ronnie Harrison, I believe, is also supposed to miss this game. And yeah, he tested positive. I don't even remember who else of the players is supposed to miss this game. And then you also have like a majority of the Browns coaching staff set to miss this game.
Is Denzel Ward missing this game? Because I know he got added to the COVID list about 10 days ago?
I don't know. I'm gonna check right now.
Yeah, we'll just check the list for you, because that's gonna largely implicate where our decision goes on this game.
Yeah, I don't see anything about him not playing, so I'd imagine he's set to go. Like I looked up Denzel Ward COVID, Denzel Ward injury, and nothing came up being like, oh, he's expected to miss the game or anything like that.
Yeah. One to monitor for the record, like really monitor that inactive list if you're going to bet on this game, because I think that's going to end up being the decider.
So we got some news here. We got Browns DC Joe Woods, not sure if Denzel Ward or Kevin Johnson. That's their top 2 corners, I believe. So that's not good. If that happens, like, I mean, how are you going to not win that game if you're Pittsburgh? You have 3 receivers that on their own are good players, right? Objectively, Deontay Johnson's a great player. Chase Claypool's a great player. Even James Washington's a pretty good player. And Juju Smith-Schuster, of course, is a good player. So if they're out their top 2 corners and their starting safety and Ronnie Harrison and their coaching staff, like a large part of the coach, like how do you not win this game if you're Pittsburgh?
Are they still
I really would have picked, if everyone was intact, everything was healthy for this game, I actually would have picked the Browns. Yeah. It's
unfortunate, but I agree. Steelers, I'm going. I actually got to know what the spread is on this game, because obviously we're going money line, but
-6.
Yeah, if the Browns are missing that many people, I think that's a lot as well.
Yeah, that's a lot of points for them to overcome if they're missing their top 2 corners against a team like this that has the receivers that they have. The over-under is 47. I probably wouldn't touch that. That seems about right to me. I would lean the over in that, but it's really close, so I probably wouldn't touch that. From a DFS perspective, if the Browns corners are out, you play Chase Claypool, you play Deontay Johnson, probably Deontay Johnson over all of them, but yeah, that's the play you go with. And honestly, if the Browns corners are out, I don't hate playing Ben Roethlisberger if that's the case, because I think he could have a big passing day in this one. But you never know with divisional matchups, with the way that the Browns are the Browns, of course, understandably so, are getting asked a million questions, being like, well, how do you overcome this if your team's without their coaching staff, and Baker Mayfield and Jarvis Landry are just like, wait, we got it. We're dealt the hand that we're dealt. We're going to go out and people are just going to have to step up. It's just how it's going to go. I think the Browns are a tough team. I just don't think this is their year. I think they're just getting hit with too much bad luck. I think next year is the year that they try and make a run at things. So Unfortunately for Browns fans who've been waiting 20 years to make the playoffs, I think your road ends here just with some bad luck.
Especially, it must be disgusting that a fact that happens to the hand of one of
Yeah.
your bitter rivals.
It
Probably
could have
your
been worse.
biggest
It could have been the Ravens that knock him out. So
That's fair.
that's the team that took your team away in 95. So at least it's not them. But
yeah, that would be as if I was picking again, like we agreed on 5 of the 6 picks, and if Corey was picking, he would have the Titans. So we'll just keep that in mind
I'll
for next
secede
round.
to the Ravens pick for the sake of this exercise because the Ravens are it's a very close game. That one could go either way.
Agreed. So this is going to be a theoretical because obviously these matchups aren't in stone, but we'll go from left to right here because we were going from time to time because we have that.
We don't know when these
games
should be scheduled. Obviously,
so we'll start off with the Steelers and the Bills. And as I mentioned on the Bills wildcard pick, I don't think they're going to be stopped on their way to the AFC Championship appearance. And I think the AFC is pretty set. It's going to be
this is a great slate of AFC games. If this were to be how it worked out with the Steelers, Bills, the Ravens, Chiefs, I think those are the best 4 teams in the AFC. Personally, yeah. I mean Tennessee versus Pittsburgh is a pretty good argument, I guess. But
I take the Titans over them,
yeah, but like that should be a fun matchup, and I agree. Yeah. The Steelers defense once was a very dominant unit. That was a Bud Dupree, a Devin Bush, a Vince Williams, like a number of injuries ago. So I think the Bills roll through them. I think that this one's probably a higher scoring game. If this is how it shakes out, and I would really like Buffalo in that matchup. I agree. I think they're the only team that's going to stop them is Kansas City, honestly, in the AFC.
I fully agree. Going into the second matchup, and this is going to be probably out of the whole weekend the best matchup if this were to happen. I mean, you got Bucks versus Saints, which is probably a close second in my opinion, but man, if the Ravens match up with the Chiefs, that's basically what we've been clamoring for in the past 2 years. Obviously, we saw it earlier this season. The Chiefs kind of dismantled them, but this is going to be a game where if Baltimore heads up early, again, the Chiefs are the only team really you can say, like, even if they go behind early, they can still come back. But the thing
Chiefs are just a phenomenal team regardless of what happens in any game. So it's hard to it's probably going to be like spoiler alert. I already know what's going to happen. We're probably going to have the Chiefs in the Super Bowl just for a spoiler alert. But I think Baltimore actually, if they win this game against Tennessee, right, which obviously would have to happen for them to make the divisional round, I think they get a bit of confidence. And I think Lamar, maybe he has a good passing day against Tennessee. It is a bad defense for Tennessee, the passing defense that they have. Maybe he gets some confidence going into the divisional round. I could really see this game being a shootout. Baltimore and Kansas City, just an awesome divisional round game. But if it's a shootout, there's no quarterback I trust more than Patrick Mahomes. And I would take Patrick Mahomes under any circumstances, no matter who he's playing. If Patrick Mahomes is versus the 85 Bears and the 85 Bears have Aaron Rodgers as their quarterback, I'd probably still take Patrick Mahomes the way he's playing right now.
It's crazy. I mean, we got the 2 best quarterbacks in the NFL on opposing sides of the bracket, and we'll see if they end up meeting in the Super Bowl this year, but you guys will find out later in the predictions. We'll go on to the right side of the bracket, and we got the Bucks against Saints, 3rd time of the year. Bush, is it any different than the first 2 matchups?
No, it's not. No? It's the playoffs I said it earlier, the playoffs are all about matchups. The worst possible matchup for Tampa Bay in the NFC playoffs is New Orleans. Probably second closest is the Rams, but New Orleans front is just ferocious. And not only are they ferocious, they are inside the head. They're living rent-free in the minds of the Buccaneers offensive linemen. Donovan Smith plays like a replacement level Division II offensive tackle prospect against New Orleans. I don't know what it is. It's the reason everyone hates Donovan Smith in Tampa Bay's fan base. If you take his New Orleans games out of his career, he might be a Pro Bowl caliber tackle. That is just how bad he plays against New Orleans, that everyone just assumes he's bad all the time, but he's really not. And New Orleans, Cam Jordan, Trey Hendrickson, David Onyemata, those guys are just having excellent seasons, and Brady under pressure is not a Brady that I like. And this is a team, I know I just talked about how Washington's front doesn't really mean as much onto the game plan that Tampa Bay's offensive line can be able to handle it. But I think New Orleans' front's better. I think their back end's better. I think their offense is better, obviously, than Washington. So they're just a better team. They're better coached. They outcoached the Buccaneers, both Sean Payton and Dennis Allen, the 2 coordinators of the New Orleans Saints, up and down the field in both games in the regular season against Tampa Bay. I don't think it's any different. Unfortunately for Buccaneers fans and myself, I'll probably be disgusted if this happens. because I absolutely hate the Saints with every fiber of my being. But New Orleans is going to have some stupid locker room celebration with Sean Payton with a broom again, and it's going to be really, really annoying. I can already sense it. I don't
They're
like
gonna
it.
have Sean Payton hitting the woe or something like that in the
Yeah,
locker
it's
room.
Jameis Winston's going to be doing something with a broom. It's going to be brutal. It's going to be absolutely brutal. And this proves I'm not biased, because if I was biased, there's no fucking way I would pick New Orleans to win this game. But here's the glimmer of hope for Tampa Bay. If Tampa Bay somehow won this game, this is how it would happen. In their Super Bowl year, Philadelphia was their crux. They could not beat Philadelphia the previous couple of years of the playoffs. They eventually overcame the Philadelphia. And there's a famous quote in their America's game, if you guys have ever seen those, where John Gruden, when he comes in, the first year he was the coach in Tampa Bay, in 2002, he's like, I got him. I got Philadelphia. I got their blitzes. I know what they're doing. We got him. If we see him again, we got him. And I really hope that's Bruce Arians' attitude. I really hope that's Todd Bowles' attitude. If they play New Orleans again, they know how to stop them this time, because the game plans that they've rolled out the last 2 times, let's give them everything underneath. Like, that's a stupid game plan against New Orleans. New Orleans takes underneath shots all the time. What you need to do is get in Michael Thomas's face. You need to get in Michael Thomas's face. You need to get in Emmanuel Sanders' face. You need to press Alvin Kamara. You need to get these guys to beat you deep. And that's the only game plan that's going to work against New Orleans. I have faith that the Buccaneers can execute that, but I just think the Saints, this might be their year. This might be the year that they actually go the distance and they actually get to the Super Bowl.
Noodle Arm Drew is not going to beat you deep, so why are you forcing him to check it down?
Exactly, yeah. And there's going to be, and another thing that Tampa Bay has struggled to defend is Taysom Hill. Anytime Taysom Hill's in the game, he just makes shit happen for against the Buccaneers defense. So I just don't like the matchup all the way around the board. And give me New Orleans. I'd imagine the spread in this game, if there was a spread, it would probably be like -6.5 for New Orleans or something like that.
Yeah,
I think that's about right. I think New Orleans would win this game
by a touchdown. Yeah. Taysom Hill, like anybody who's grown up in high school football, there's always been one Taysom Hill on your team. Like, I don't even know how to, it's like the cocky white dude that like doesn't really have a role, but just kind of does a bit of everything. Like, will head as a gunner on special teams and make a fucking huge hit on the punt return. Like, there's always that one guy on every team. And Taysom Hill is getting paid what, $20 million to do that? Like,
wild. I can't believe they're paying him that much money when they have a better quarterback as like $1 million man. Anyway, to the next game we have here, and I don't think we're going to spend a whole lot of time on this one either. This is Green Bay all the way.
Yeah.
So the Rams match up well against Seattle for the reasons that I laid out earlier. They don't match up the same way against Green Bay. And I know Green Bay lost David Bakhtiari. He's not going to be playing in the playoffs. And that's a big deal for the Rams, especially because the Rams get after you as a defensive front, and they're good in the secondary. But man, I trust Aaron Rodgers. The way he's playing right now, I don't trust any defense to stop him, honestly. Like, there's no defense I would say can stop Aaron Rodgers right now. Devontae Adams, same thing. I know Jalen Ramsey's unreal, but Devontae Adams has been the best receiver in the league this year. He's been absolutely unstoppable no matter what corner he's going up against. So I will take Green Bay to win this game. I think this is probably exactly how everyone would have it. If you were to say who are the favorites to be in the 2 championship games on both sides of the AFC and NFC, I think this is probably what we're thinking. I think the only teams that could disrupt this are Baltimore on the AFC side and Tampa Bay on the NFC side, in my opinion. Those are the only 2 teams that could get in that we don't currently have in there.
To be fair, I mean, like, you could say on the AFC side, it would be the winner of the wild card Titans versus Ravens team would probably be the Berserker. I fully agree, though. If Pittsburgh didn't have those injuries, they definitely could have a chance to do that. But the injuries they sustained just a little too much to overcome. Their defense isn't nearly as good as it was with Dupree and with Bush and all those other guys that went out. I agree. Now, these 2 games, wow.
For what it's worth, I did pick before the season, when we did our season bets episode, my Super Bowl pick was Chiefs versus Saints. That was my Super Bowl pick as the 2 teams in the Super Bowl. And I picked New Orleans to win it. So let's see how this one goes. Bills versus Chiefs. Bills versus Chiefs. We'll start with the AFC side of things. This is a game that would be awesome. I think every football fan, no matter what team you're a fan of, wants to see this AFC championship. Like, this is unless Baltimore just is super, super hot or Tennessee super, super hot, this is the most fun matchup that we could possibly ask for. I think in terms of the matchups in this game, the Chiefs defend the pass pretty well, and it's an underrated part of their defense. I think they're able to stymie the Bills enough that Patrick Mahomes can do his thing. Basically, that's all it all comes down to. And again, when you're in the playoffs, when you need to trust a certain team or a certain guy, the Chiefs just won the Super Bowl, right? So they have the playoff experience, the playoff pedigree. Their quarterback had to make a clutch drive in the Super Bowl last year. He's got that mental toughness, whereas Buffalo, I guess to this point, they'd have 2 playoff wins under their belt. But last year, we saw Josh Allen not able to beat a pretty bad Texans team without, aside from Deshaun Watson. So I trust the experience and the talent of the Chiefs roster as a whole, plus Patrick Mahomes over Josh Allen, together to just, I can't pick against the Chiefs.
I fully agree. The way I look at this, don't get me wrong, my opinion, I mean, Josh Allen's by far the second best quarterback in the AFC.
Mm-hmm.
However, the way I'm looking at this as well, the Chiefs.
And I've been saying that at the beginning of the season, though.
Crazy, I know.
Yeah.
The Chiefs are basically a slightly better version of Buffalo across the board. They got the better quarterback, slightly better defense, slightly better offensive supporting cast. Well, I mean, good amount better.
Yeah, it's probably a good amount better. But yeah, I agree. I think all the way around, it's pretty much just a better team. Like it's just if you in Madden, if you guys play Madden, if you added like lockdown chemistry and like sprinter to all your players on the Buffalo team, they're just the Chiefs. That's basically what happens. They just become the Kansas City Chiefs. And I think, Kansas City wins this game and they're headed to the second straight Super Bowl.
For sure. Now we got the NFC side. And as I mentioned, I am not betting against Aaron Rodgers in the NFC playoffs. I know the Saints defense has been suffocating, but realistically, it's going to come down to arm talent, Drew Brees, or Aaron Rodgers. Who's going to make the clutch down the field play to win this game? I trust Aaron Rodgers at this current point in his career way more than I trust Drew Brees to make that play. That's what it is.
Yeah.
That's what
this is a game. If this happened, I have no idea which way I would go, because I agree. I think if this is a passing game, if this team needs to pass the ball to win, Aaron Rodgers over Drew Brees 10 times out of 10 and twice on Sunday. The problem is we saw it last year in the NFC Championship. Why did Green Bay lose to San Francisco?
Oh, San Francisco pounded the living crap out of them.
And who is the defensive coordinator for Green Bay still? Despite that performance, Mike Pettine's still there. Alvin Kamara could take over this game. It is very possible that Alvin Kamara and Latavius Murray and Taysom Hill run this team to the Super Bowl. And I think that is actually my prediction. I actually think the Saints win this game. I think New Orleans' front can do enough against a David Bakhtiari-less Green Bay Packers offensive line that Aaron Rodgers is rattled. And we saw in the Tampa Bay game in week 4 that when Aaron Rodgers got rattled, it was ugly and he wasn't able to come back from it. A lot has happened since then. I realized that. And Aaron Rodgers is playing with more confidence than probably any quarterback in the league right now. But I just think this is New Orleans' year, man. I think New Orleans has paid their dues. They've lost 3 straight games in the playoffs the past couple of years. I can see the America's Game fucking NFL Network special writing itself where Drew Brees and Alvin Kamara and Marshawn Lattimore, Sean Payton are talking about how they have had heartbreak the past couple of years, and this is their year that they go to the Super Bowl. I think whether they win the Super Bowl or not, we'll discuss that in a couple of minutes, but I think this is New Orleans' year. I think they beat Green Bay if this is the case.
However, I could see that special going both ways because if you look at it, yes, the Saints had their own heartbreaks. Packers have been basically a similar team. Like the 2 teams in the NFC that have faced the most heartbreak in the last 10 years, easily these 2 teams. I mean, the Packers have made the NFC Championship, 3-4 times across that stretch, have only made that one Super Bowl where they beat the where they beat the Steelers. And I think that was 2010?
Yeah, 2010, yeah. They're a wild card team.
Yeah, I mean, again, these are 2 of the best quarterbacks of all time. We can easily say these are 2 of the top 6 or 7 quarterbacks minimum all time.
Yeah, for sure.
We can easily agree to that. And I agree. Again, if the Saints are able to pound the rock from an early portion of this game, really establish it, really take over this game as we saw with the 49ers last year, again, you can win with the inferior quarterback if that happens. We saw Jimmy Garoppolo make a Super Bowl last year because of the same philosophy.
I actually think the Saints defense might be playing better than the Niners defense was last year. I actually have that much respect for the Saints defense. I think it's that good. And that might be a surprise to some people. Maybe you don't watch as closely. I watch this team very closely. They're in my division. They're the leader. I think they're a top 3 defense in the NFL, and they might even be 1, to be honest, right now. So I think they're just complete defense all the way around. The addition of Janoris Jenkins was huge. He's playing really good right now. Marcus Williams, one of the best young safeties in the league. I mean, like the front is just absolutely ferocious. Demario Davis is incredible. Like I don't see a weakness on this defense, and I see a weakness on the Packers defense, which is why I think If you take offense versus offense, give the Packers the edge slightly. Take defense versus defense, I think it's a pretty big difference between the Saints defense and the Packers defense. So I will take the Saints to make the Super Bowl and potentially get Drew Brees a ring before he goes out into the sunset.
I'll give you the Saints on this one. And before we quickly hop into the Super Bowl, I'm just going to mention the reason why, I think the Packers would come away with this.
Yours would make for a more fun Super Bowl. That's for sure.
Yeah. I'm just looking at it from a trials and tribulations standpoint because Aaron Rodgers, I talked about it all offseason. The past 3 years before this year, this was like a mid-20 touchdown thrower, wasn't really taking chances, wasn't really playing like that same swagger that
playing like a bona fide Alex Smith.
Pretty much. This year, dude just drips. Like, dude, this guy just oozes fucking swagger.
Even in the game against Tampa where they got rolled, he did the freaking Key and Peele celebration on his rushing touchdown. Like, yeah, it's wild. This team definitely has the feel of like, you get that feeling with the Eagles a couple years ago or with the Chiefs. I guess they didn't win the Super Bowl in 2018, but the year that Mahomes threw 50 touchdowns, like you get that Super Bowl feeling, right? Like they just feel like they're going to make the Super Bowl that year. The Packers definitely have that feel to them. Like everyone said, oh, you need to add a receiver, and they didn't add one, obviously, right? And I still hear people saying, oh, next year they're going to add someone. It's like, no, why do they need to? They might win the Super Bowl without adding someone. Anyway, for sure. I'm still going to go with the Saints, but I definitely could see this one going either way.
Yeah. And now we got the finale, Chiefs versus Saints. And we both actually picked in our bets episode the Saints to win the Super Bowl. But if it came down to this spot, I'm taking the Chiefs. I can't go against them. I can't go against them. I mean, again, this is the reason why I would have had the Packers over the Saints personally. I just can't go against, in my opinion, the two best quarterbacks in football right now. It's just, it's tough. But yeah, well, what are your thoughts? We can elaborate more on this game.
Part of this is like, because everyone wants the Super Bowl to be Packers and Chiefs, it probably won't be, right? The year that the Rams went to the Super Bowl, everyone wanted the Super Bowl to be Saints Chiefs, right? And both the opposite two teams went, the Pats and Rams, right? It made for one of the worst Super Bowls I've seen in the last 10 years, right? I think everyone wants the Super Bowl to be Packers Chiefs, which is why I think one, if not both of those teams don't make the Super Bowl.
Yeah, that Super Bowl was quite literally the worst case scenario because the final four teams were Chiefs, Pats, Saints, Rams. If it was a Pats versus Saints game, you could have said, oh, the two long-term quarterbacks and two of the best ever get to face off in a matchup to win a Super Bowl. If the Chiefs played the Rams, oh, we saw this game earlier this year. This was a great
and it was awesome.
Part two of this great epic matchup. If it was Chiefs Saints, oh, we got the young buck and Mahomes taking over the league versus the old veteran in Drew Brees. We'll see who can come through it. And then we ended up with Pats Rams, which is literally like no storyline whatsoever. And it was just a boring fucking game.
Yeah. That year I was like, I wanted it to be Pats Saints because I was like, yo, winner retires this game. Like I wanted to see Brady or Drew Brees like retire. Obviously I didn't want to see Brady retire now that he's on my team. But at the time I was like, what if the Pats and Saints play each other and Brees wins and he retires, or Brady wins and he retires? Like that'd be really dope. Like winner goes home for good kind of thing, or they both retire. That would have been cool too.
For sure. So, what are we marking here? Because we both.
I'm marking New Orleans. I think this again. I've said it a couple times now. New Orleans to me feels like they have a Super Bowl caliber defense. They have a Super Bowl caliber coaching staff and scheme that is able to overcome maybe a mismatch in quarterback talent, which is not something I would say for a lot of teams. It's really hard to overcome a guy like Patrick Mahomes. It's really hard to overcome a guy like Aaron Rodgers, but the Saints are just the most well-coached team in the league. And they pull all the tricks up their sleeve. And I think this would make for an awesome Super Bowl for that reason, because you'd see a lot of that kind of trickery, potentially like what we saw with the Philly special a couple of years ago. I think there could be a play like that in the Super Bowl that's really turning the tide one way or another. I think like from a matchup perspective, Demario Davis and Marcus Williams and stuff, they're good enough coverage players to limit a guy like Travis Kelce. And the Saints defense is well coached enough to limit a guy like Tyreek Hill. Not necessarily put Lattimore on him and he's shut out of the game, but put Lattimore on him, roll Malcolm Jenkins to that side or whatever, and and you should be able to limit a guy like that. I just think the Saints would have a better game plan for this game, and I think they match up better from a holistic roster perspective and a coaching perspective.
Yeah, that makes sense. So to recap,
And
again, you
again,
guys can
I don't want the Saints to win the Super Bowl. I hate this team with every fiber of my being. I just think this is their year.
To recap what goes on here. Okay, so for Bush's preferred bracket, it's basically the same thing as this. Just substitute the Titans in for the Ravens there. And for mine, it's the same thing apart from Packers beating the Saints and then Chiefs beating the Packers. So if you guys made it this far in the video, comment down below NFL playoffs, just so we know you watched till the end. Appreciate all of y'all. And if you're new to the channel, you're watching this, shows up in your feed, you see a nice little thumbnail, you think, oh, this is an interesting video to watch. Hit that subscribe button. It helps us a lot. And of course, as always, like the video, helps with that YouTube algorithm. But with that being said, again, this is Bush and Danny back with you. Official 2021 playoff predictions. Anything you want to say before I head out of here, Bush?
Yeah. Head out to my Twitter if you guys want to start seeing a sneak peek of what we're going to be doing this offseason, some of the content that we're going to be releasing. I did a thread breaking down my RB1, Travis Etienne. Got a lot of traction. A lot of people really seem to like that. I surpassed 1,000 followers because of it, which I'm very grateful if you guys do follow me over on Twitter. For all of you that do so. So make sure you guys go check that out. That's just kind of a sneak peek of the in-depth kind of content we're going to give you all off season. As Danny said, like, comment, subscribe, all that good stuff. Peace out, y'all. Hope you guys enjoy your playoffs.
Yep. Peace out, y'all.
Why you need the